Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show with your host, not Adam. um, I've stepped in for Adam, and for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since '96, and I will be stepping in for Adam just for this episode to give you the lowdown of the latest and breaking, no, latest and something
Development?
news. There's another
Latest and
word.
greatest?
Yeah, I think that was the word I was supposed to say, but that doesn't make any sense. The latest and greatest news, we'll stick with that, coming from Colney and all things Arsenal. So, yeah, really glad to be here, and joining us this evening is Monty. So, Monty, thanks for well, this is your show, really and truly. You should be presenting this. I should be the guest, right? But thank you for joining us this evening. How's everything going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, all good. All good this end. Still, I was actually today. I was at work. We have a lot of Arsenal fans at work. We were all coming together and speaking about that loss over the weekend, but we're over it now. And when I saw the team that flew out, I've got a lot of optimism for the game ahead. So I'm just kind of waiting for tomorrow, really, see some new faces and see what they can really bring to the team. What about you?
Good. Well, yeah, pretty good. I mean, I think I'm over the fact that we dropped 3 points on the weekend. I didn't particularly enjoy Sunday either because Spurs ended up battering Newcastle. City got a jammy-ish victory against Luton. So, looking ahead to the final game in the Champions League, which is going to be the focus of today's show, and maybe discussing a few things that Arteta mentioned on his press conference. So first things first, PSV last game, nothing to really play for. What are you expecting going into this game?
I mean, I expect a solid PSV team because although we have nothing to play for, they do. So I'm expecting a solid PSV team who have been amazing in their league at home. But I do expect a rotated squad in preparation for the weekend. I know sort of Arteta in the week said he didn't want to risk Saka. I mean, he's fine. He said he's not like majorly injured. He just needs rest. But I'm expecting a rotated squad for tomorrow, which is actually a good thing to see because I feel like we hardly get to see players outside of that sort of core 15. So I'm expecting to see some debuts, some fringe players get some minutes, and just for me, I want to see how they play and how they cope with being put in the limelight. I can't see. I mean, Arteta, even though he normally goes really strong in every game, because this is like guaranteed, we're going top of the group anyway. I can see him rotating. I can see him rotating. I'd be baffled if he doesn't, especially with the young kids that are coming in. Some players really deserved to have a debut, I think. So it'd be good to see.
Speaking of
Expecting a tough game though.
PSV, they are having really the season of their lives. Top of the league, they've won 15 out of 15 games. So they haven't drawn any. They also haven't
Mm-hmm.
lost any. I guess the chasers behind them are Feyenoord with 35 points. They're on 45 points, but they do have a bit of a tricky run. Not to say a tricky run. Maybe the next two games are challenging for them, and they'll be thinking about Alkmaar, AZ Alkmaar, after playing us. Currently, I mean, do we know where they are in the Champions League? They're runners
They're
up.
third, I
Lens are
think.
behind them. Yeah, no, they're second. So they've
And
got 8
second.
points. Lens have 5. If Lens win and they lose, they could still go through by goal difference here because Lens are on -6, PSV are on -2. So depending on what happens, I don't know. I don't know how they approach this game, how they look at approaching this game, but they've certainly been very impressive going into this
Hmm.
one. How Arteta questions were asked um
Hmm.
to Arteta about some of the younger players and what they've done to get to this point. They've obviously travelled over. So which one young player would you like to see on the pitch tomorrow?
I think the one who will probably get it just purely out of the depth of what's on our pitch is going to be Walters. And to be honest, I think he deserves it because I do watch a lot of youth games, and Raw Waters is definitely a standout. He can pretty much go anywhere along that back line. Very versatile, fits the profile very well and what Arteta wants. So he can go left back, he can go centre back, he can go right back, he can go right centre back, left centre back. It's quite ambidextrous. So I think he's going to work in fine. He does have a stronger right foot, but he can use his left. There's no issue to him. He's a ball playing defender. He's confident in the air. He's tall. He's very young, but he's physically large. He feels like he's maybe old. He feels like he's older than he is. So I think he gets the start. I think he deserves it as well. And it'll be his debut, so it'll be good for him to get it. Imagine having your debut playing for the club you've always wanted to play for in the Champions League. What away as well? What kind of nights? What more do you want really?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think he's the only
And
one that starts. To be honest.
traveling with Walters is 18-year-old Lino Souza and 17-year-old
Hmm.
Ethan Nwaneri. Um,
Yeah.
so this is a really big opportunity for some of these boys because it's one thing playing, a League Cup game on a Tuesday evening and then playing a Champions League fixture away from home at a relatively big European club on a Tuesday evening. So
Hmm.
if I mean, maybe this is a good opportunity for us to quickly just mull over the starting lineup. Who do you think plays?
I'm gonna go quite out there. I think it's gonna be quite, and I'm gonna say I think Ramsdale gets a game.
Hmm.
I think Ramsdale starts. I can see Kivior. I can see Walters playing, but maybe Walters goes in at at right centre back. We get Gabriel at left centre back, Kivior at left back. Actually, no. No, do you know what? Do you know what? I'm going to switch that. I think it's going to be Kivior left centre back, Gabriel right centre back, Walters at right back, and potentially Zinni at left back. Then maybe in the midfield, probably Jorginho, Havertz, mm, maybe I don't know El Neni. I'm either thinking El Neni or Vieira, and then up front I'm going to go with Nketiah, Trossard, Nelson.
Okay,
Quite a
you've
heavy
picked
one,
a
or
yeah.
um, yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with that. But I'm gonna go instead of El Neni. I think maybe Vieira. I think heavy though, heavy rotation.
Yeah, and I was gonna just ask you about the heavy rotation. I mean, everyone's expecting it. The real question is it going to happen?
Hmm.
Because we can't forget that we've got a tough game coming up against
Brighton.
Brighton on the weekend on a Sunday. We've just been beaten by Villa, despite playing quite well.
Hmm.
Do you think Arteta will want to risk the momentum or the freshness, or not even the freshness, really? It's more so trying to get everyone back up to speed, trying to inject a bit of confidence in them. Do you think that will be playing on his mind as well when he's thinking about his starting lineup? Because again, we need to bounce back against Brighton. And if half of the players who started against Villa don't play until Brighton, do you think that might be a bit of a hindrance on their performance?
Honestly, I don't think so because with the Villa game. it wasn't a bad game. We played really well. We actually played really well, and we were definitely the more dominant team. We just didn't score. So on a performance basis, I don't think that the heads will be down. They'll look at the game tape and they'll know they just didn't convert their chances. It wasn't that they didn't make any; they just didn't score. And we had a couple of ref decisions against us. It was quite a harsh game for me. And I know from Arteta's interview, he said it's very difficult when you're competing in so many leagues and cups to find minutes for these youth players. And he says he really values them and wants them to be at the club. And he is something that the club itself is one of its kind of trademarks. Really, Arsenal have always brought talent through. It's a part of their DNA. It's a part of our DNA. It's what we're proud of. So this is a free game. This is effectively a free game, and it's a really great opportunity for those young players to learn about those experiences, be involved in an away game in the lights, in the international telly. You're going to be watched by millions. So it's a really big opportunity for them. It's also a great opportunity to rest the key players because it's nothing's really relying on it. But what I would do, I would have the whole bench filled with starters just in case, But I would bring them on just to get a couple of minutes in because these are professional athletes. Their bodies work differently. They need to be active. Like you don't want to work. I said it. I think it was in the pod or the pre-show with Adam, but they're a bit like Eddie Stobart lorries. Do you know what I mean? They just need to keep ticking. That as long as that engine's still on and running, it's going to work like a dream. The second it stops, that's when you start getting issues. So I think just get him on. Put the starters out, the young players, and then start bringing them in, depending on how the game develops. If one is completely being swamped and it's overwhelmed, maybe bring them off, or have a chat with them and put someone next to them who can support them. So that's how I would approach the game. Obviously, with Arteta, we never know. We never know. He can say one thing and do another, or he'll go fully full squad again because he just absolutely adores the 15. And we've pretty much had that this whole time he's been manager. He's always stuck with his sort of core players, and then tried to trickle in some players here and there. But this is a perfect moment. I would be very surprised if he doesn't take it to give these players an awesome opportunity, and for them, in terms of they're thinking about their future, they want to play for a club. How better can you show your gratitude to them by giving them a moment in the Champions League? Do you know what I mean? That
Hmm.
that 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 for me as a young player, if I was being given an opportunity, I'm going, yeah, this is my club. Do you know what I mean? I've been here for so long, and now I'm being given these opportunities. I feel like my work that I've put in is being rewarded. So give it to them. They deserve it. They really do deserve it. Especially Lino. I've said for ages, Lino Souza should be a part of the squad, and I said this more last season because he never really even had a sniff. But the thing is with him is it was always difficult because we had like Kieran Tierney, we had Zinchenko, we had Tomiyasu and Ben White. It was very hard to get him, and he's a left back really. He can go further forward, but he's more of a fullback. Um,
Hmm.
these are the moments you need to get him in. Lino Souza is a good player. He's a very good player. Got a lot of potential ahead of him.
Yeah, but I think we also need to bear in mind that a good performance maybe isn't necessary for this game against PSV, but a victory is something that Arsenal should be um, aiming for because two defeats on the bounce and then playing Brighton isn't a good look, and it just
Mm-hmm.
builds that bit of anxiety, unnecessary anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that we do play a little bit of a balanced squad, one that has strong first team players who maybe will benefit from these minutes, such as Kai Havertz, such as maybe Jesus. I'd like to see either Gabriel or Saliba start. But you're right. We do need to obviously uh, give those that haven't been given any minutes who'll be expecting to be starting players like El Neni, maybe Vieira, potentially even Jorginho, and yeah,
I think
especially these
Jorginho
youngsters.
would be perfect. If you have the youngsters, Jorginho is like the perfect player to have in there. Do you know what I mean? Just with his experience and calmness. But who would your back line be? Just as like I predicted, including the goalie. Who do you think will be selected?
Um, so according to George Bird, the
Hmm.
notorious George
Yeah.
Bird on Twitter, Real Walters is set to make his competitive senior debut for Arsenal against PSV. So if we're to believe those reports, and he's quite a credible source, he'll be one of them. Where he
Almost certainly right
plays is
back.
another
Yeah.
question. Yeah. So okay, if let's go with that. Let's say he plays right back. You got Walters there, and then you've got. I would be looking to play Saliba because I think he had a bit of a poor performance against Aston Villa. I think he'll benefit from a trip away in the Champions League. We don't have many centre backs, which is a bit of a worry for us.
Hmm.
Aside from Gabriel, who else is there who can play?
Kivior
Tomiyasu's out. Kivior, yeah, so you can play Kivior there
in his natural
and
position.
in his natural position. And then you got a question of who plays left back other
Hey, we've
than
got Cedric
Zinchenko.
Suarez.
I was just I was just gonna say,
Put
other
Walters in
than
the centre back,
Zinchenko,
Cedric Suarez.
you've got Cedric
Mm.
Suarez, but I do see Zinny keeping his place and
Yeah.
starting just out of by default because we don't have anyone else. I would love to see Jorginho start. I'd love to see Elneny start and Fabio Vieira. So you got Jorginho and Elneny maybe playing as the two sixes,
Experience in the
and
midfield.
then Vieira in the eight. Emile Smith-Rowe is also back. We haven't even spoken about him. Before we end the show, we
Hmm.
do need to discuss Emile Smith-Rowe and Havertz. But the most interesting part for me will be who we play up top, because with players like Nelson on the bench, Trossard who barely gets a start, it'll be interesting to see whether Arteta opts to give Nelson a start or whether he keeps it strong with playing either Martinelli or Saka on either side of the flank.
But did
But
Saka go
yeah,
with the team? Because I thought
oh no,
didn't
he
he stay at
didn't. He
home?
didn't. He didn't.
Yeah, I
Yes,
thought
you're
he
right.
rest him at home. So it's got to be It has to be
Yeah,
Nelson starting on the right,
yeah, yeah. It has to be Nelson on the right. I
and then
don't really
maybe
see Trossard playing
the
there.
the left is one where you could and ah
Yeah, yeah,
potentially. I think Trossard, but you could play Martinelli. You could play
yeah.
Martinelli.
I think we know who's playing up top. I think it will be Nketiah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
your
it makes it
defense
for
is
it.
in trouble.
And actually, that starting lineup that I've just predicted, it seems okay. It's a mixture of young and old, experience and
Mhm.
fresh
Who's your
talent.
goalie?
Well, it has to be Aaron Ramsdale. It's got to be he's got to be Aaron Ramsdale. He's got to try and redeem himself and try
Mhm.
and put his name in the hat. Try and win the manager over.
And we got
But
Emile
moving,
Smith-Rowe as well.
yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe. So I was going to say, moving on from the PSV game, Emile Smith-Rowe is back, and Arteta did make some comments about Emile, about his recovery. And I just want to quickly read out the quote, and then we can have a just quick chat on him.
Yeah.
So this is what Arteta had to say about Emile Smith-Rowe and his rehab, the way that he's uh, carried himself through this
Hmm.
latest spell of injury. When he has been through, what he has been through is part of the experience that 95% of footballers have to go through. That's difficulties, injuries, setbacks, and different kinds of performances too. He's back now, and he can use that in a very powerful way. He'll be a much better player. I think he's on the right path. The way he's done his rehab, I haven't seen it like he's done it this time. I think you have seen how his teammates reacted to him being back with the team, which is a really positive thing as well. The more we can give him chances to play, the better he will be. So let's hope that that's going to be the case.
Hmm.
What can we understand from that quote?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to unpack. So with Emile Smith-Rowe, he's had niggles throughout his whole career. He's had like the groin issue was quite prevalent, especially during the 2021 season. Emile Smith-Rowe is a very, very, very naturally gifted player. He's a very naturally gifted player, and he's relied on it heavily up until about now. Because now he's getting to the stage where everyone in the league is pretty naturally gifted, and now, but the thing that sets him apart is that physicality. It's going to the gym, it's doing the hard work.
Mm,
We remember the quote from 2 years ago when Emile Smith-Rowe, his diet was awful. He wasn't really focused on that side of things. Now he cut all the junk food. He's got a chef and everyone that comes in and
mm,
does everything for him. He really started focusing on that side, and he started getting better. He had that outstanding season. What was it? 11 goals, 10 assists, or that 2021 season when he got the double figures. outstanding season. Then he had the injury, which is very unfortunate. And then he did come back briefly, but it seemed like he kind of maybe came back with a bit of a like, I'm just going to start. I was doing so good, my numbers are good enough, I should just start. And I feel like he got left behind because the other players that came in were just outworking him, simply outworking him. So what I'm understanding from Arteta now is he's dead focused. And I mean, Arteta still believes in this player. He still believes in him as a player. I mean, he believed in him when we got him, gave him the number 10 shirt. I think we all believe in Emile Smith-Rowe. Like, we know what he can do. He's so good on the ball. He's like he's a quite a unique player, to be honest. He gives me like, reminds me a little bit of like a Trossard, but he has the way to keep the ball so close to him, like Cess. Like, he can just manipulate that ball and keep it so close to him. It's really difficult to get it off him. But he has that, like, the frame and the speed and the directness of like a Trossard. He has the ability to go past people. So what I'm understanding from the latest quote from Arteta is basically he's more focused now. He's a grown adult now. He's 23 now, 23 years old. I think 23. So he's no longer that youth thing. He's now starting to have to become that role model like Saka's had to be for other young players. So, and because you got to look, the academy players are going to look at our HLN players who are in the team, and they're going to look at them as role models because that's where they want to be. So he now has to act himself accordingly, and I think he's starting to add that into his game. And I really hope that we get to see him. I really hope we get to see him. I think PSV's a little bit too early for him. I think he will come in because he just wants to train with the team. He'll get a quick session. I don't see him playing. I'd love to. I'd really love to. He'll get a massive cheer, and I know he will, and he deserves it. But I think it's a little bit too soon for him. But I'm hoping now with Emile Smith-Rowe going forward, he gives us another dynamism in that midfield left 8 option when Havertz sometimes isn't quite the right choice. So I'm looking forward to what he can bring. What about you? What did you take from it? Anything different?
I don't know. I was going to ask you, just as a follow-up question, whether you
Yeah, go on.
think that he is actually part of Arteta's plans. I know he says that the more game time he gets, the more we can give him chances to play, he says. So not game time, chances to play, the better
Yeah.
he will be. So let's hope that's going to be the case. Let's hope that's going to be the case. Just judging by the language, I don't know whether Smith-Rowe is in Arteta's plans. I think that was a very media-trained answer. I think that he's still very unsure about Emile Smith-Rowe, as for any player who's coming back from a recurring injury. But I do feel like unless he's given game time now, his development is going to stagnate.
Yeah.
You know, he's 23 years old. He's still at a very, very crucial stage of his development. We never saw the upward trajectory from the Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka era. You know, one went on to do great things. The other one kind of meandered along. And so I would like for him to get as much exposure and game time as possible. I'd love to see him come on in the last 10 minutes tomorrow. I would love to see him on the weekend be prioritized in the last 10 minutes as opposed to a Jorginho, say. But it's tough, you know. It's difficult for the manager to rely on someone who's had such little game time, who has such little, momentum under him when we're going for a title. You know, you forget this
Yeah.
isn't a squad building challenge; it's a title chasing challenge now. It's a completely different ball game. So we have to be critical. We have to be harsh. Of course, we want him to succeed. Ultimately, what I would do if I was Arteta is to try and build his stock back up so that in January we have some leverage. We have something to play with. If we want to bring in a striker and we know that we can't bring someone in unless we make sales, unless we bring in some, profit/revenue, then, unfortunately there will be individuals who have to be sacrificed. And one of them I'm looking at is Emile Smith-Rowe. As much as I want him to stay, the reality is that we're a little bit light up top. We do need a finisher with 10 to 15 goals in the latter half of the season, and if that's going to win us the league title, then so be it.
Playing devil's advocate,
Um,
I'd rather sell
yeah.
Vieira than Emile Smith-Rowe.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. But
Yeah,
again,
he'll
I
never
don't know. I
kick
don't know
on.
if that's realistic. I don't know if Arteta is willing to go that far just yet. I think with someone
Yeah,
like Vieira, he's really well, it's his player, isn't it? So
yeah,
I don't see him, without stretching Vieira as far as he can. I don't know whether he cuts his losses at this point.
yeah,
If there's something we know about Arteta is he will die on that hill. When he makes a
yeah.
decision, he'll die on it. So just finally, then before we end the show, we found out earlier today, was it, that Kai Havertz won Player
Yep,
of the Month for Arsenal in the
deserved.
month of November. And yeah, as you said, fully deserved. I feel as well, in my opinion. Other fans will have differing opinions on him and on that decision. But just a quick one on how far he's come from, last month.
Yeah, leaps and bounds really. It's light and day really, and it just goes to show what a bit of confidence can do. Little bit of confidence. He got that one goal, and then he just kept firing. He just kept scoring, and he's getting himself into it. He seems more comfortable when I watched him over the last month. When he came over, there was more hope that he would do good, and then you'd watch him, and he was not on up to scratch. He wasn't on the right page as everyone. Now I feel like he's got confidence in not just himself but also the system,
Mm.
and he knows the players around him. He is slowly turning and ticking, and we're starting to see the Kai Havertz that I think everyone thought we were going to see in the Premier League, and I really hope we do. And just to sort of mirror what Adam normally says, I really hope he does well because he has such potential. And we've been harsh critics of him over the week, and we've been harsh critics of anyone really if you're playing poorly, which he was. But nonetheless, we still want.
Oh, I believe Monty's frozen in time. So I'm going to try and finish off his thought. It's really important. I feel like he needs to kick on. He needs to continue the momentum. It was really positive to see him perform so positively against Villa, despite the negative result, despite there being some lackluster performances from other players. He was one who I felt like was quite consistent, creating chances, looking quite energetic and enthusiastic in the middle of the pitch, and making things tick. Which is, if you had asked me a month ago, 2 months ago, would I be talking about Kai Havertz like this? I would laugh in your face. So he has come in leaps and bounds. He is doing so well. With his, not just his abilities, but his enthusiasm, his attitude, most importantly, and so thoroughly deserved for Kai Havertz to win such a prestigious um, award, if you want to call it that. I will end it there. It's coming up to the half-hour mark. I know it's called the 15-minute show, but we do tend to go on a bit. So I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's watched up until this point. Thank you very, very much. If you did enjoy this video, please do like the video, share it around, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button if you want to watch more content like this. We will be back for the post-match reaction podcast following the PSV game, so make sure you check that out. Make sure to also check out the preview show where we'll be looking ahead to the next fixture against Brighton, and of course another post-match podcast after that game as well. So once again, thanks for checking us out. Hopefully see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.